Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next session in our Google Ad Manager summer series. My name is Tim. I'm a product sales or go-to-market lead here at Google. Today, I'll be talking specifically about our upcoming migration to a unified first price auction, as well as some of the intricacies or nuances of unified pricing rules. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, the main goal today is really to leave everyone dialing in, our publishing partners, in a position to make informed and educated decisions that will ensure that your stacks are watertight and set up in an optimal way ahead of this migration. Okay, so without further ado, the agenda for today. We'll start with a short overview of the what and why we're making some of these changes. Importantly, we'll take a look at the transition schedule. There are some key dates for your diary. Word of warning, they're not too far away. In addition to unified pricing rules, we've also made a host of improvements to Google Ad Manager blocking logic over within the protections UI. So we'll cover both of these. We'll then finish with some of our best practices and general good housekeeping recommendations. I believe some of you are going to be sending in questions. There was a lot of questions that came in advance, so thank you to all of you for doing that. We're going to try to get to all of them at the very end of the session. If not, we will be sending out an FAQ as well, so we'll be able to cover off anything that we can't get done today. So a background and summary, really the whole narrative is built around these three pillars. So simplicity, sustainability, and transparency. This sounds great. What are we talking about? I hear you say. Okay, I get it. Simplicity. Let's tackle these one by one. So number one, all net bids from indirect sources of demand are competing in a single unified auction. This is in contrast with today's multi-stage auction that has sort of evolved over time, not necessarily by design. We'll have new unified pricing floors that apply across all sources of indirect demand. So this is not just ad exchange anymore, but also exchange bidding for partners using that feature, and just in general non-guaranteed tags. So anything that you have running through price priority, network, and bulk. And then there's no auction discount. What is the auction discount? Okay, well, this is the gap between the first and second price that publishers traditionally have used AdX pricing rules to try and optimize for, or try to squeeze the lemon a little bit. Look, in this new world, buyers pay what they bid, and floors don't directly impact the clearing price. What this means for us on the publisher side is there will be a significantly less need to constantly be tweaking and modifying your pricing floors. So really a point that I want to hit home today is that yield management in this regard is fundamentally changing from what we know and love today. There will be significantly less need for you to constantly tweak floors. You do not need to be extracting value from high bids on a per impression basis. Again, highest bidder wins, they pay what they bid. Okay. Sustainability, pillar number two, right there in the middle. Today can actually be quite challenging for buyers to correctly value inventory out there in the marketplace due to a general market asymmetry. And what we mean by that is for the same user, the exact same impression, there might be multiple requests coming from many different demand sources, but different rule logic, different floors apply for all of these. And it's quite the headache for the buy side. On the sales side, we've seen like increasingly complex monetization strategies set up that, yes, they might be driving perceived short-term gains, but look, in the long run, or even in the medium term, like these gains are really not sustainable. Okay, so for the longer-term health of the overall ecosystem, we can't be in a situation where buyers are underbidding themselves, or buyers are throttling bids to keep with their SPO strategies. Okay, tomorrow, all indirect demand sources are competing even on an equal footing. In other words, consistent rules apply across channels. Also, no competing offers will set the price paid by another buyer. I think that's that's easy to digest from both the publisher and the buy side. And again, the highest bidder wins. They pay what they bid. Simple. And then when it comes to the third pillar, you see on the right-hand side, transparency. So we're increasing auction transparency on both the buy side and the sell side. For publishers using Ad Manager 360, which is the premium version of our ad serving product, if you like, there will be a paid add-on. It's a data transfer file. It's absolutely huge. It will provide, however, those publishers insights into bid landscape data for every single auction and impression that takes place. With that being said, for all publishers, in keeping with our promise and message around transparency, we will be providing full bid landscape data at an individual pricing rule level and bid distribution data, I should qualify, at a unified pricing rule level. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the session. In summary, before we kick on, is this convenient and positive for publishers? Yes. Is it convenient and positive for buyers? Absolutely. The end result, look, we strongly believe that this will lead to an increased programmatic revenue sustainability in the long term. If you can hear a little bit of background noise behind me, I apologize for that. I believe our facility staff here may not appreciate that we're doing a live stream. I'll carry on irrespective. Two major mind shifts related to first price. Okay, the first on the left-hand side is obviously unified pricing rules are superseding open auction pricing rules. With legacy AdX rules, we use them for things like blocking logic. We, of course, use them for channel conflict with your direct campaigns, but they're also used, as we talked about, for traditional yield management, again, where pubs were attempting to close that gap between the first price and the second price. Unified pricing rules will work in new ways to help you achieve your indirect goals, and as you know, we have plenty of best practices coming up. The other major mind shift is around protections. So we're stripping out all blocking rules from ad exchange pricing rules, and blocks will now be much easier to manage in one centralized UI, and we'll take a look at these in a moment. But first, unified pricing rules. So where are they? You'll find them in the UI under the inventory tab. Alongside first look, and actually also alongside ad exchange pricing rules for the duration of this transition period. Eventually, these will be deprecated, as you can imagine, as they will be redundant once we are 100% first price transacting. First look will still exist as a standalone value add feature for publishers. This is basically a facility to allow you grant specific buyers, advertisers, or brands access to your various pockets of your inventory at a specific rate. Generally, this could be close to your market rate card. It's typically quite low fill, but again, that will still exist in the unified pricing rule world. Also, yeah, like we said, they apply to all sources of indirect demand. Okay, so that's AdX, EB, and remnant line items as well. So just super important. With the exception of house campaigns, they are exempt. As are remnant line item campaigns, so price priority bulk network, where there's no value CPM specified. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail as we go on. Taking a step back, like just to hit home the message here, like managing floors across multiple demand sources is a real challenge, and it's very cumbersome for publishers, and has been an extremely popular feature request for many of our partners. So look, we are excited about this, and it really presents a positive opportunity for you to incrementally drive yield and ensure the overall health of your programmatic ad stack. Next up, protections. All right, so in July, to make this transition easier for publishers, we actually started auto-migrating, where possible, publisher blocking rules from legacy ad exchange pricing rules directly into the standalone and revamped protections UI. We highly encourage you to take a look at your UI today and just ensure everything is up to date and that all blocks reflect your actual your business rules. A few call outs to make here. So we're consolidating blocking rules from multiple places. So before we had them in display, app, video, they're now obviously in the one location. We're extending even targeting compatibility for advertiser and brands. So you can now include, maybe you can block certain advertisers and brands from a particular geo, i.e. your core and tier 1 markets, but maybe you're happy to let them transact outside of those markets. And obviously, as we just said, we're introducing the buyer blocking facility within protections as well. This is previously just advertiser and brand. These are AdX buyers, to be very clear, and typically they're named in the form of agency with DSP, or the demand side platform that they work with. With this change as well, look, you can rest assured there is increased limits for protections as well. So that should be helpful for you. Caveat, and just to make it clear, unlike unified pricing rule floors, this applies just to the ad exchange for now. So just if you are using third-party networks or exchanges, you will need to ensure that blocks are implemented in those third-party partner UIs as well. Okay, and before we have a look at timelines, some feature requests I want to call out. You've been asking, we've been listening. As a lot of you will already know, we originally had a limit of 100 rules. We felt you could achieve your goals within that 100. But look, we have heard of a lot of use cases and valid business reasons why 200 might be legitimate. So yeah, that's live in the user interface today for all publishers. We've also been able to introduce multi-size support. This is where within one single rule, you can actually have different sizes for different floors, or different floors for different sizes even. Imagine, if you will, on a desktop page, you might have a unit that supports a 970 by 250 and a 728 by 90. You can now split out these sizes based on split out the floors based on the size of the format. Excuse me. Buyer blocks as well. We just spoke about those in the protections UI. That's now live. Coming very soon, advertiser discount bans. If you have a preferred global advertiser where you have a deal with in many different regions, and you want that advertiser, regardless of the channel through which they're buying, access to some pockets of inventory at a lower rate than everybody else, you'll be able to do that. Watch this space. Performance campaigns as well. These are remnant campaigns, networks you might be running where they aren't competing, let's say, on a real-time value CPM, maybe informed by a key value through something like header bidding, but they could be impression go-based campaigns. They could be CPC-based campaigns. We will provide a facility for certain campaigns to be exempt from unified pricing rules, but they will be in line to deliver if no unified pricing rule ad request is matched, but they can be prioritized. So as we'll see later, you might have more unfilled in-house ads depending on how your unified floors are set up. So this is an important consideration to have, and we can talk about it as we go on through the best practices today. And last, whitelist for buyers, advertisers within protections. So allow or block everybody except this one buyer, this one advertiser. We've seen some instances where publishers only want Google Ads, formerly known as AdWords, for example, to transact on a particular pocket of inventory. Yeah, very soon you'll be able to do that. And then on the roadmap, this has been a popular request alongside multi-size, is formats targeting. So imagine you have an ad unit that can facilitate a native unit, maybe a display, maybe an outstream as well. Again, within a single rule, you'll be able to floor those formats slightly differently depending on your business rules, depending on real world performance. So our transition schedule, first looking at first price, we are now at 10% traffic. Key dates for the diary, you definitely need to have these on your radar. We will be ramping up to 100% first price traffic. We're currently targeting late August, early September. Dates are subject to change. Check the help center, check to your partner manager for any changes or updates there. Legacy ad exchange pricing rules will not apply to this 10% first price traffic. So it is paramount you think about your unified pricing rules strategy after today's session if you haven't already. On the 90% of second price traffic for ad exchange, if there is a legacy ad exchange pricing rule and there's a unified pricing rule that overlap, ad exchange will respect the higher of the two. However, again, word of warning, unified pricing rules apply now to all indirect traffic, or in other words, as soon as you set them up within your ad manager networks. Protections as well, just to call out a couple of things. Review your setup, like we said a little bit earlier. Advertiser and brand blocks for ad exchange apply today, but those buyer blocks and inventory exclusions for AdX will start ramping up from 5% this week. So again, review your system, make sure everything's in place. You don't want to be missing out on revenue as a result of not having reviewed your protection setup. Okay, and then just a quick recap. Unified pricing rules, they're in open beta now. Feel free to start thinking about them. Looking forward to sharing some best practices in a moment. Protections are rolling out right now as we speak. Google Ad Manager is moving to a unified first price auction late August, early September, subject to change, but we're currently on track. Okay, so best practices. This is really why I'm here today to chat to you guys. Our goal, primary objective, is to give you a host of recommendations and solid best practices, good housekeeping, call it what you will, when it comes to designing and implementing your unified pricing rules. Please excuse the clickbait-worthy headline that we ran with for this slide, but we do have 10 unified pricing rule tips to set you up for success in a first price world. Okay, the first 5 will help you review your indirect non-guaranteed stack and how it's working today. And then the last 5, once you know how everything is functioning and performing, the last 5 best practices will help you design and implement those logical unified pricing rules that work for you and your business. So first up, analyzing potential channel conflict. Okay, so look, in a second price world, publishers often use per buyer floors to extract value on a per impression basis to capitalize again on that auction discount. That's gone, no longer needed. With that being said, channel conflict is absolutely paramount. And when we say channel conflict, we're talking about conflict between your direct sales that your sales team do by traditional IO or programmatically by PG or PD, and then your open marketplace or non-guaranteed indirect. Managing this conflict is paramount. So we have a report here that you can see on the right-hand side by the query tool. You can look at the last 6 months. You can look at sponsorship standards, line items. You can look at the country. Basically, your objective here is to find all of the direct advertisers and brands that your sales team are working with. Maybe have a real-life conversation with them as well to understand what advertisers may be on their hit list. And basically, you want to floor all of these advertisers at your market rate card. So look, guys, you're welcome to transact, but to do so, you're going to have to do it at our agreed direct rate card. Kicking on the priority of legacy AdX rules to migrate. So we know a lot of publishers have quite a number of rules, some more so than others. We won't name any names. But generally, we see the Pareto principle in play. This is the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the revenue is coming from just 20% of the requests. Often it's 90-10, might even be 95-5, depending on the publisher. But again, the best practice here, just to call out, you need to understand the pricing rules that are responsible for the most match requests and prioritize these, and ideally only these, when converting to unified pricing rules. Next up, anonymous inventory is no longer available, and there's good reason for this. In a world of transparency, we all want to comply with that. Anonymous inventory does not comply with the IAB's ads.txt and app-ads.txt standards. With that in mind, we have a couple of suggestions here. So publishers with a lot of anonymous transactions may want to align their unified floors closer to legacy AdX anonymous open auction floors if there was a substantial amount of impressions or revenue running through that channel. Importantly, just to highlight for publishers who might be more sensitive about certain sections of their site or pockets of their inventory, we will provide a semi-transparent facility for you where maybe example.com section can be rewritten to example.com. But look, in the interest of transparency, as said, ensuring that just fighting back at bad actors and ad fraud, this is an important move, but it's also important you give it due consideration when designing your unified pricing rules. Next up, again, where ADX pricing rules only apply to ADX, UPRs, as we know, extend to all sources of indirect demand. This particular report here that you can see, it might be very large if you have header bidding in place where you have potentially thousands upon thousands of line items set up in your system. But ultimately, you need to identify inventory or campaigns that may not deliver as a result of being below your unified pricing rule floor. So this report will help you analyze where non-delivery might occur. And then you can actually use this information as well to help inform you where you can optimally set your unified pricing rule floors. There is a new troubleshooting tool in the UI as well. We have a visual for that, so I'll kick on, but I'll highlight that shortly. Exchange bidding is another large source of indirect demand for many of our partners today. Best practice here, look, pull eCPMs from each of your exchange bidding yield partners. And again, just understand the potential impact of floors, but also use this as guidance to ensure that you can set optimal unified pricing rule floors. Again, example report here. We look at a historical report. We filter demand channel as exchange bidding. Look at the yield partner, look at the request type, and then just look at the metrics, yield group, estimated eCPM, and this will give you a good indication. Of course, each of these reports that we're highlighting here, they're just recommended. You can tweak and refine depending on your use case and the information you need to derive. Okay, so the first 5, like I said, we're all about reviewing your ad stack today, the status quo. These last 5 are very much around helping you design and build your unified pricing rules. Okay, so a few things to call out. Where ad exchange pricing rules were prioritized, they were stack ranked. The highest rule in the list was the one that applied, and he overrode any of his friends that were underneath him. Unified pricing rules, we basically will evaluate all eligible, and the highest floor amongst all of these rules will be applied. If there's no matching targeting criteria or UPR for a piece of inventory, it will default to 0, just FYI. Also with that exchange, we had separate tabs for display, mobile and app, video, similar to protections like we spoke about. But today this is consolidated into one area for unified pricing rules as well. Okay, so it's all within the one interface. That's why we now have that limit of 200 pricing rules, as we mentioned. We really feel that this reduced limit is feasible for you for the reduced duplication we spoke about, blocking rules being stripped out and moved to protections, and also just, again, I feel like a broken record, but there is that reduced need to fine-tune and capitalize on that auction discount. Buyers now pay what they bid, and the highest bidder wins. Simple as that. So a best practice, avoid unnecessary overlaps when you're designing your unified pricing rules. And look, you can achieve a lot with a little, okay? Number 7, designing and building unified pricing rules. So as we know, priority works a little bit differently. So yeah, overlaps, as we just spoke about, are not our friends. Consider using this broad to narrow targeting approach. So rule 1, run of network, this conceptually might be similar to the default rule that you'll remember from ad exchange pricing rules. Then maybe consider a rule for your core market and tier 1 markets. On the right hand side, I wouldn't go much deeper. Again, we don't want to be too prescriptive here. It's entirely up to you. But for your tier 1 markets, maybe segment your inventory into high performing and average or low performing inventory and have two separate rules in place for them. But really you want to focus on your core market or markets where the majority of your traffic and users are coming from. And this is where you should go a little bit deeper. Like I said, we want to analyze different ad sizes based on their performance and indeed the performance that you or the value that you place on them yourselves. That's for ad sizes. Formats, my apologies, are coming soon. So formats, we mentioned native, ad stream, display. You might want to floor them a little bit differently. Look at inventory types as well. So web, app, video. If you have drastically contrasting CPMs across those three, it's a consideration for you. And then maybe the first rule that you create is actually that channel conflict. So you ensure all of those direct advertisers are floored at your market rate card. Super important. Kicking on, this might seem very intuitive and dumbed down, but literally, after you've designed your wonderful unified pricing rules, it kind of helps good housekeeping again to have a logical and easy to digest naming convention. Imagine your ad operations lead is on maternity, paternity, they decide to change roles. Someone new comes in day one with no prior knowledge. Are they going to be able to look at the names of these rules that you have specified and understand what they're about? The naming convention that you see on the slide is not necessarily one that we have devised. It's kind of one that we just see has become more and more popularized across the market. So maybe start with your geo, then your inventory type, whether it's display, video, app, and then maybe split it out by sizes, formats, placements, and so on. Again, no need to reinvent the wheel here. Keep it simple, and you'll be leaving yourself in good stead. Okay, we're getting close to the end of our best practices. We're almost at time. Target CPM is something we're excited about. I'm happy to announce that for unified pricing rules, we are extending target CPM capability not only to ad exchange, but also to exchange bidding demand. And we are looking at implementing it as well where possible for other indirect remnant line items too, where they have value CPM specified. A few call outs just to mention here. Publishers, you can basically set them as enabled or disabled on an individual rule level. Blocks are still respected, and even when a target CPM potentially an impression clears below your target floor, it still needs to be the most valuable impression at that particular auction in time, and then it will be offset later that same day, week, month with a higher CPM. So you're by using target CPM, it's now default. We highly recommend it. You will increase fill and yield, but again, the control is very much in your hands. And then last best practice, but definitely by no means least, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we do have some tools that will help you optimize your unified pricing rules and yield once you're fully up and running. So the line item troubleshooter, what you see on the left, this highlights potential remnant line items that might impact on the clearance of your non-guaranteed line items. So super helpful. Advise you to check it out over the coming days and weeks. And then on the right-hand side, this is not live yet, but this is the bid landscape insight card I mentioned. So once more, in keeping with our promise of transparency, we will provide full bid landscape distribution across each of your unified pricing rules via another insight card on your own page. They will start rolling out for publishers as we get real-world data at some point in September, after the 100% first price migration has taken place. And taking a step back, we are assessing future insight cards that might be useful for you as well. Okay, we got there. Thank you for bearing with us this long. I'm now happy to jump over to our questions and answers. I'm going to bring in my very able audio-visual assistant and platform guru, Balint, to share some of the questions that have come in. And yeah, we'll see how we can answer them. If we can't, we're sharing FAQs.
Exactly.
Okay.
We will. So thanks, Tim. A great presentation. We did get some questions from our publishers beforehand, and we picked some of the most exciting ones that
my favorite.
we believe that could provide more context. So one of the questions is, what are the best reports to look at to analyze our performance for unified pricing rules and the first price auction?
For sure. So within Query Tool, again, within the historical report within Query Tool, some of you may have noticed a unified pricing rule dimension. So obviously use that first and foremost. You'll be able to use that with a whole host of different dimensions in the interface as well. I know from chatting to some publishers, there were concerns about the cross compatibility of different metrics. Good news is before we make the 100% migration, we'll be improving the cross compatibility of metrics. So you'll be able to slice and dice your data and really see how unified pricing rules are performing for you.
Great, excellent.
All right.
So there was another question, and it's about the unfilled ad requests. So where are the unfilled ad requests reported in the unified pricing rule?
Yeah, this is, we spoke about mind shifts a little bit earlier, and this is certainly one of those. So there's no conventional unfilled metric within your reports. You'll see a no pricing rule applied field. This can be in place for a few reasons. Number one, if indeed an impression did go unfilled. Number two, it can also apply where there was just no eligible match request for a unified pricing rule, i.e. it was below the floor. Or number three, maybe it wasn't eligible because there was a standard or a sponsorship campaign that was delivering in its place. So yeah, the no pricing rule applied to all of you data analysts out there. That is your friend. Hopefully it will become clear how to look into it over the coming weeks. If not, look, we'll do our best to educate, provide more information where we can, and yeah, speak to your partner manager if you are still unsure or have more questions.
Okay, excellent. So another question that caught our attention was the impact. So will floor prices still be impactful in the first price auction?
Yeah, very much so. Look, yeah, things are changing. Yield management, as we used to know and love it, is different. I don't know how many times I mentioned the auction discount, the gap between the first and second price. That is going away. Highest bidder wins. They pay what they bid. For channel conflict, we spoke about that during the best practices. Floors are absolutely relevant there. In addition to that, I guess it's a publisher's business rules and I guess the opportunity cost of serving ads versus some other incentive that they might have, whether that's driving memberships or subscriptions. Let's say maybe they're selling a physical product, it's an e-commerce transaction. Maybe they have their own marketing or internal campaign that they want to promote in its place. And then there's just that trade-off, user experience. Some publishers do take an approach of less is more when it comes to actually physically serving ads. But again, just that's absolutely fine, and user experience should always be factored into these conversations. But we would say the higher your floors are, the more bidders are going to drop out of the auction. So again, proceed with caution.
Okay, all right. And building on the impact, actually, so do you believe that pricing rules, with the new pricing rules, unified pricing rules, publishers will lose or can lose control?
It's a question we've heard a few times. Look, in short, no. Publishers still have full control on how they manage their indirect demand sources. Look, there is ways and means. If you don't want real-time price competition and a level playing field amongst all your providers, maybe there's some real-world business relationships you need to respect. You could, of course, deliver a indirect demand provider at a standard priority if it's an impression goal campaign. You could artificially adjust the value CPM as well. But again, look, our recommendation is the level playing field is for all players in the ecosystem and our longer term value of the programmatic indirect world. The level playing field approach is super positive. I did mention the performance campaign facility as well. So if you do have networks again, where there are maybe not, there are impression goals for this network or CPC, CPA goals for these networks. Again, very soon we'll be providing that facility within Ad Manager where you can set these sort of goals on campaigns. So if a unified pricing rule doesn't match, if the request doesn't match, then you've got house and unfilled to contend with. But hey, you might have some campaigns within this within this tier of priority that you want to give more incentive to. That facility will be there. So maybe that's another message as well. Really think the value of your house campaigns. And I'm talking to a lot of publishers. They were just at the bottom of the stack. They were a bit of an afterthought. But look, they are a valuable piece of real estate. So talk to your in-house marketing team and see how you can be leveraging and taking advantage of that inventory as well. I think that would be increasingly important in a first price world as well.
Okay, makes perfect sense. So thank you, Tim.
No worries.
I think this is the amount of time we had for Q&A, and as you said, there will be more questions answered through our FAQs and other channels.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, my able assistant, Balance.
I'm going to roll out.
Okay, it's going to subtly roll out of view. Although I know I exist as a very small little character in the corner of your screens. But look, thank you everybody for joining us today in the latest iteration of our summer series live stream. I believe there will be an email sent to all of you at some point later today or tomorrow. Please share your thoughts. Let us know your feedback. If there is anything we didn't cover that you want us to dive a little deeper on, let us know. In the meantime, I would point you all to, there's always our Help Center, of course, but we have published a best practice playbook within the Help Center. We are launching version 2 of this very, very shortly, so stay tuned. Next week, Teresa, one of my colleagues, will be back. You might remember her from last week. She'll be speaking about ad format optimization. So this is everything from native to multi-size to ad streams. So we're super excited about that. But for now, that's all from me. That's all from Balance. Thank you for joining again, folks, and we will see you very soon. Best of luck.